Hi, thanks. I'm Josh with Nuflow. We also in the plumbing industry, slightly different things that we take care of. We do the epoxy pipe restoration. It's another option aside from traditional tear out and replace, so that you don't have to, obviously in some buildings, getting to those pipes, especially the older buildings, can be very different. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about the company, and then we'll get into epoxy lining, and I know I don't have a lot of time. I used to work back in engineering. It was fun, but yeah, I got into, after that, something a little more interesting, forensic plumbing, which that actually was a lot of fun for a couple of years, where we were trying to figure out why plumbing systems fail. You're usually called in when someone's been staring at a problem for a week and they just can't think about it anymore. And then you come in from 30,000 feet and you can help out coming up with a solution. So that was a lot of fun. I worked with Dr. Mark Edwards. He's the head of civil engineering at Virginia Tech. When pinhole leaks in 1996, plumbing leaks were around 200 per zip code per year, not a whole lot. In 1996, in 2006, those leaks rose to 14,400 per zip code per year, and they've continued to even off, but still kind of go up a little bit as time progressed. So here we are. They're going to be doing another study soon. One of the things that we realized is that aside from all the construction defects, and you heard about a lot of the normal stuff that can happen to a piping system, and that accounts mostly for the 200 per zip code per year, and that's been happening for as long as pipes have been in buildings. The newer thing is the chemical changes in the drinking water. In '96, they added chloramine to the drinking water. You may have heard about the lawsuits with the builders towards the water districts, which they're not going to win any damages, by the way. I was actually involved as an expert witness in some of those, but we can go into detail if you're curious at my booth. In any case, when we were researching this, one of the things Dr. Edwards said was, Josh, you got to do something to get involved in this. The numbers are absolutely skyrocketing. So I went out of forensic plumbing and I got into pipe restoration with Nuflow, the epoxy lining technology. There's a lot of buildings where it's not simple or easy to just tear it out of the building. We've done, I was crawling through the basement of the Capitol building 6 months ago in DC. We've lined all the aircraft carriers in the fleet, all the LHAs in the fleet, part of the White House and the Capitol in DC, the Eisenhower Executive Office building, 7 lines for NASA, part of the Alaska pipeline, you name it, oil rigs off the coast, etc. I've personally overseen 6,000 units in HOAs in Southern California over the last better part of a decade. So it's kind of interesting if you're really curious about why leaks are occurring or a lot of this kind of stuff, if you want to know. Most people don't, but I've been researching this for 6 years, so I'm just grateful if anybody wants to listen to me anymore. But feel free, ask me any questions you want. What our pipe restoration process is blowing a liquid epoxy through the inside of your piping system to separate the water from the copper pipes. This way, whatever additives they put in the drinking water isn't going to cause a problem. If we can go ahead and roll the video, though, I'll show you. This is a clear 2-inch pipe. This is just some video we took to help explain it. It's a little hard to see, but that's the epoxy moving through the pipe. Now, air is moving through there at about 100 miles an hour, literally dragging that epoxy through, past the point of wherever the next connection is in the wall somewhere. And again, we blow the epoxy past the next connection. It's a little hard to see, but bear with it. And then again, we keep air moving through here. It's all done with air. Even through your 1/2-inch pipes, we fill the pipe with air moving through there, and it drags that epoxy along the inside. And so it's hollow on the inside, as you can kind of see in the video. And it just moves around corners, and it follows the airflow. The Navy actually developed this technology 28 years ago for their aircraft carriers, specifically on their CHT lines, jet fuel lines and drinking water lines. CHT is what carries the raw ocean water and sewage. Jet fuel lines, of course, and drinking water lines carry those. And so there was a couple of things they needed to make sure they did with the epoxy. They had to make sure it was really good at taking wear and tear, what we call erosion, because salt water and stuff moving at high velocity through a pipe will literally erode a pipe, but also because it's salt water, it has to take corrosion. Then because of the jet fuel lines and the drinking water component, but actually more the jet fuel lines, they had to make sure there were no extractables, meaning nothing came off of the epoxy into the fuel or drinking water or anything else, because obviously chemicals getting into the drinking water can be a problem for humans, but jets are very expensive. And so when you're adding stuff into your jet fuel lines, you can gum up the works and cause problems there. So the Naval Research Laboratories, and actually the name of our epoxy is NRL4A. We haven't branded it as anything we sell on the open market, so it doesn't have a cool name like Teflon or something like that. But it is Naval Research Laboratories for a epoxy. The head of all coatings for the Navy, the person who's in charge of every bit of paint, every bit of epoxy, every bit of any coating in the Navy. He's actually the co-inventor of our epoxy before he got into that position. So kind of neat pedigree as far as where we've been, what we've done, but it's used a lot. We work with a lot of the builders who are getting leaks in their copper pipes in less than 10 years. So it's an alternative, it's an option. Like ProServe, which is a great company, they've got a great reputation in the industry. They're going to be one of your bids to look at a solution. Traditionally replacing your pipes, we hope to be a bid as well, see if we're less expensive or make sense. And then you got to make a decision on how you want to move forward. Any questions? I know this is a little bit different than the norm, so by all means.